So I love pruning.
Yeah.
I love all the horticultural aspects of grove care. I love making the plans, figuring everything out. So the other thing, and I draw everything out, right? Even though it may not look like it, but I have a map of everything in there. Now nothing's labeled, but everything's mapped. And the reason I do that is also because, again, um, there are people. I mean, I'm pretty well known around the world, right? And they know that I have stuff, right? They know that I have um, the best mango genetics. I mean, that property has these two properties have the best mango genetics in the world.
Is that also yours?
Bar none. Yeah.
Okay.
All of our stuff our property is the best genetics for mangoes.
It's a gold mine.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it
Do you
is.
have trouble with people coming in?
Floating on there. Sometimes
We have trouble with when Ian, not him, but they never go after him. I don't know why, but they sent in, it was Danny. Danny was here. I'm in the back doing something, and Daniel comes to me. He says, "There's this young lady wanting to get take all of our Wangos and asking a whole bunch of questions and wanted to know if she could get budwood of Wangos and all this stuff." And I said, "Dan," so my son comes back and says, "Dad," says, "I don't know. She's acting kind of weird and acting a little squirrely." And it's coming on to me. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe she's just lonely. I don't know. But anyway, so I come out there and it's this young lady. And I said, I'm talking to her. I said, "So who are you? I mean, what's your deal?" She said, "Oh, I'm from, I work for Sunworld." And I'm like, "Oh, do you now?" Sunworld is
Big.
they were the
commercial
creators
grower.
of the seedless watermelon. They used to be farming and genetic. They, they, they were very innovative farmers.
She's an agricultural spy.
That's what she was. And they were honeypotting my oldest son. How about that? You know?
Yeah, seduction.
Yeah, exactly. He'll do anything to
Use
get
what
to the
works.
budwood. And so
It's a novel.
I said, I told him, I said, "Don't, son." I said, "Don't." And we were, remember at last year at ASHS at my talk when we had that woman from Sunworld in there, and we get out into the hallway and everybody is asking
got
us,
like a crowd of 20 people.
and all these people want to get to the genetic material, right? And I tell them, I say, "Okay, but you got to get through, Abelardo, the attack goose, you know." I said, our goose is mean, and I said that, but
We were able to use the dog excuse before, but I don't think she's going to be a good guard dog right now. She'll just expose her belly to them.
she's way too sweet. But, yeah, it's interesting, but that is one of the reasons I don't label anything, because there are people that do come and take things in the dead of night.
Wow.
And
Cameras? Get a camera system.
the real best system
We have a good neighbor.
is just having our neighbor is seriously paranoid. I don't know.
He's
Our
worried
renter, he's seriously paranoid.
worried about the government watching him, so
He
he works for the wallet.
So it'll be a good alarm system. If
That's
anybody
a
comes
very
in.
good alarm system, except you might, but anyway, but what's really incredible about it is that the genetics are, these original trees of the orange sherbet and stuff are just literally the tip of the iceberg of all the things we really grow now. I mean, we grow, all of our Kali and Sassi and all of these varieties, Big Saturns, Nectars of Neptune, Mercurial Marvel, all that stuff. I mean, we came up with these names because we were bored, basically, and we had to come up with the names, but it's all just, we bred these things and we bred for taste, tree size, horticultural, management, basically, and for disease tolerance. Those were the thing, and productivity. Because part of it, if any of you grow Pineapple Pleasure or Harvest Moon or about half of the things from Zills, they don't bear. That's the problem. They never bear. And it doesn't do me any good to have a mango tree that only produces one fruit if we're trying to, do a little business and sell mangoes. Doesn't make sense for us. So that's why I worked with Gary 35 years ago, and he would select out of my stuff and I'd select out of his stuff, and everyone sees things in different ways, right? And that's the way it goes. Everybody looks in their collection and they look at the selections you have. Any plant breeder, that's what they do. That's a healthy way to do it. Same thing with the apple breeders. They do the same thing. You bring in another person to look at them because they see things that or they have different needs, right? So that's really what we're, and with the Wangos, we've just started that. So we just are, until you make a grafted tree of them and not the seedling tree, you really don't know either, because the grafted trees change everything. And so they can make them very different. And they can make them like this year. So when you were here last year, Wango 2 was yellow. This year, Wango 2 was red. It was red, which was crazy. Early in the season, it was red. And we'd never seen it because I had only seen it a few times, right? But now that tree is born for 3 years in a row, and it's something that I think is really a really good.
It's more marketable, right?
Absolutely. And by the way, that's the other valuable thing in Wangos is that the wild species have the genes. They'll go from green to red when they ripen. And it's not based on the sun. It's the ripening color. So that is worth, that's the holy grail if you're a fruit.
Just for that one aspect.
Yeah, but if you're a fruit breeder, that's like, if you're marketing, if you're a Whole Foods or you're a Sam's Club or you're any of those guys, if you tell them, oh, I'm going to give you a fruit that's going to turn red when it's ready to eat, they go insane, because that tells the consumer when to eat it too. Because that's one of the hardest things. How do you eat a mango? When do you eat a mango?
Plus, it's an attractive color.
And it's an attractive
green
color.
Mangoes, people are like, couldn't taste that good.
Well,
green mangoes are great though when you live somewhere you got in your front yard. It's the best thing ever.
I'm not saying they're not, but somebody who doesn't know,
right?
Is expecting.
That's part of the allure of the whole thing, right? That I like green skin fruit in general. I think it resonates for me. But like you said, most consumers, it's hard to compete as long as you only have one of them. And that's the other advantage, by the way. That's the other advantage of a Wango or other species. They're not mangoes. So you don't have to apologize. Whenever you see people like Florida avocados, just by the fact that I call them Florida avocados, that means we've already denigrated them, because California won, right? Mexico won, because Mexican avocados, that the Haas is the standard by which we measure other avocados, right? Whether we would like to admit it or not, it is. And so one of the smartest marketing things we ever did in Florida, but they outlawed it, was they marketed avocados under a different name, right? Alligator pears, and they've done it in different things, Antillanos and all kinds of other things. But
that's what we really do call them in Key West. I'm 70 years old.
Yep.
We've been calling them alligator pears.
And that's what we call them. And we grew up calling it that too. So it was, But that's, yeah, it gets very interesting. I mean, we're going to be at a conference next week with a bunch of I'm going to this. He's going to present his research, and I'm going there to arm myself against Sam's clubs, right? So that I can, get myself lawyered up. And because that's the thing, they got good lawyers.
They got a lot of money too.
And they got a lot of money. They can throw anything at you. They can destroy your life, man. So I've been, but I know those guys well, and I don't fall for their traps very often.